as we climb the mountain of our lives, we have three lives, and they call lifestyle, and when life comes at you, and life someday. So if we're not putting away a little bit for life someday, then we're not going to be able to come down the mountain the way that we might want to come down the mountain, right? And what a lot of people don't realize is that the need for income isn't experienced until you don't have income anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people don't plan for life someday, because it's just not there. It's not in our forefront, because while you're earning money, you have all the cash flow that you need for expenses and for things that happen to you, right?
Welcome to the Break Free podcast. I am your host, David Mancilla. I have opened this channel to honor the people that are making this world a better place with the work that they are doing, with the organizations they are leading. Today we have with us an exceptional person that is helping a lot of Canadian families with a peace of mind about the future. Michael Baker is one of my good friends. We met in one of our business groups. We have a common business coach, which is the best business coach in the world, actually. He actually is training billionaires, as I heard. So Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. Very excited to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Wonderful. Michael, for me, this recording is very special because after I introduce you to the audience, you have shown me that there is still possibilities for me to get some kind of plan B, if you mind, safety net in my life, despite that, I'm past 50 years old. And honestly, I thought from the last experience that I have in this part of my life, I thought that I was completely not qualified to have this type of protection in my life. So can you tell the audience your full name, where do you live, and what do you do for a living?
Sure. So my name is Michael Baker. I live in a small city called Medicine Hat, Alberta. We're right in the southeast corner of Alberta. And well, right now, I guess the typical description you would give to what I do is maybe financial advisory services or financial planning. However, what I like to say is my mission is to help people spend and share their money with purpose, and really is around creating a future that maybe they didn't see was possible. And I get to have very many wonderful conversations like the conversation we're going to have today with people on a daily basis, and I'm very grateful for that.
That's beautiful. Michael, how long have you been in business?
So I'm coming on 5 years in the financial advisory role. Now, I'm also a chartered accountant, and I guess what they call us is a chartered professional accountant now. And so I've been in public practice, which means basically client-facing work, for almost 25 years before I became a financial advisor. So pretty much 3 decades in helping businesses, business owners with various aspects of their taxation, and now focusing on protection and financial planning.
That is wonderful. Michael, let's look back. A chartered accountant or an accountant, having that and becoming a business owner is one of the formulas that I've seen for people to get massive success. A lot of the people that I used to work with, that I used to serve, they were accountants that happened to open software companies or other types of businesses. And because they knew the accounting part of the business, they knew how to actually not only make the money, but keep the money, they were successful. Isn't it?
Yes, yeah. It's like anything, right? We're all on our own journey, and obviously you've been tremendously successful, David, right? And you've been more into the software design, I think, and engineering, I think is what you and I have spoken about. And so yes, for sure, taxation and accounting is a nice foundation to any business, and it's helped for sure, and it helps me relate to my clients because I find that they get a lot of there's a lot of financial advice and players and that comprise their team. And really what the challenge is bringing all that information together. And so given my experience, I have a bit of a unique perspective and I can do that.
Michael, before we look at the past, give me one example of a situation with a client of yours, of course you don't have to say names, where you really made a huge impact in their life by the way of your services.
Well, I might not share a specific example from my practice, but I will share a specific example from an associate of mine's practice, and it really does highlight what we do. And so he was sharing with me that they had put together this kind of insurance strategy for a family-owned business, and they were, so after the insurance strategy was put together and the rest of it, one of the owners' wives came over and confessed to my colleague's wife that what they did was the most impactful thing that they've ever done for their organization. And she said, well, what do you mean by that? And she said, well, what your husband showed me was that, or us, is that if something happened inside of our family business, that basically we were going to have to write a check to the Canada Revenue Agency for $200 million. But not only were they going to have to write that check, they were going to have to actually liquidate assets inside of their company to be able to come up with the liquidity to actually write the check, which meant that they also would have had to pay taxation inside of the company relative to the liquidation of the assets. So this would have been a $350 million turnaround for them. And they were growing $1 billion business. And they were able to obviously put the protection in place, and so that basically down the road, the life insurance would deal with the check, as well as some tax planning measures where we could reduce the liability. But really, that goes to show that what would have been maybe a family business that would have just, being liquidated if one of those events that happened to everybody happened. In this case, now they have a strategy in place that not only will the business continue, but it will thrive and it'll grow for future generations. And so that's what I do on a regular basis. I deal with a lot of family owner managers that are dealing with the same issues, where they're really thinking about the continuation of their business and their legacy, and what could happen that might not let that future materialize.
Incredible. And I have actually an experience myself, a personal experience that happened in the family. Back in the 80s, my older sister got married to an independent airplane pilot. So he was a commercial pilot. He was running his own business. And you can imagine his life insurance was very expensive, but they always paid it, hoping that they will never need to use it. So basically, if he died, the whole business will go away because he was the one operating and the one actually creating the revenue. When he was 37 years old, he went on a plane. He took passengers from one country to another, about 8 passengers, and there was a storm, and he got killed in the top of a mountain. And if she didn't have that coverage that they were paying, they were sacrificially paying for it, she would have been in a very, very hard situation with a 9-year-old kid and a 7-year-old kid and a whole future ahead of them. And that money provided for stability, provided for a foundation to get these kids ahead. And they are my nephews, and now they are thriving. And it was because of that protection. And sometimes I tell people these things because a lot of people think about insurance in a way that it's a scam, or that only the insurance companies get rich, and they say a million things until they actually need it. So when I think of insurance, I think of, for me, is a safety net that I wish I never have to use. So every time I don't get to claim an insurance claim, I am blessed. But if anything happens, if the Lord wants me to go through a tribulation, I know I will be protected, right? And I've been insured most of my life, That's why I was excited about this call, because once I turned 40, my term insurance collapsed, and it was so ridiculous that I said, I have enough equity in my businesses, so if in case anything happens, my family will be okay. So I never pursued it again until I met you, Michael. And then you opened my eyes and made me realize that it is possible living at my age, and it's affordable, by the way. So can you explain to people what you did to me and how that came to realization? Because I honestly shopped around and I couldn't get anything that wasn't stupid, if excuse my language, right?
Yeah. No, for sure, David, and thank you. There's a lot inside of that we just kind of discussed, and the insurance industry does have a lot of negative opinions around it, and I've struggled myself to kind of understand what those are. And I think it's because there's a lot of people that are inside of the industry that may not have the training or understand how the product work and the technical expertise to actually explain it to somebody in a way that they can understand, right? And complexity in life stops us, and so you really need someone who's an expert to sit there and actually talk to you in a way that you can understand and receive the information that you need to make a powerful choice. And yeah, that's, we find that when you're looking at protection, right? When we go through that first part of your life, it's really so that we can give you a 95% chance that you're going to get 100% of the way on your life goals, right? And that's what protection's for, right? Because wealth accumulates over time, and the biggest factor in wealth accumulation is time. And there's this whole dialogue between, what is, expensive and what is cheap, right? And, when it comes to certain insurance products, they are priced exactly the way that they're supposed to be priced. Like term insurance is priced exactly the way it's supposed to be priced, because, the odds of something happening to somebody before 65 are relatively low. And so that's why term insurance, in terms of, the cash flow impact, can be fairly low and surprisingly low, right? And that's a good tool for a lot of families to say, hey, we're going to get through those earning years and have that protection so that we can have the life that we plan to have with our family. Now, from that, actually, term insurance is a great tool to offer other parts of permanent insurance, which is insurance for your whole life. We call it whole life insurance. That can work as part of a strategy, and it does work very well for owner managers, because there's generally inside of a corporation, your money is trapped. And when an owner manager passes away, there's what we call a deemed disposition of your assets, and that includes the shares of your company. And so that's another way that, it really works to go into more permanent strategies, if that's of interest to the owner, whereby they can actually have the insurance proceeds go into the company and come out of the company on a tax-free basis and deal with those, that taxation on death and leave more assets to your family. Because really, later on in life, as you and I know, David, you start having, when you understand that you're taken care of and God's taking care of us, in our journey, we think of the next generation, right? We think of a legacy and how we can leave a legacy for our family. And again, insurance can be a wonderful tool to do that, right? So
when you are with the right people, because that's what I found at the end of the day. If the person that you're working with is actually looking after your best interest, then you will be well protected, well established, and it's actually going to work in your favor. For example, I learned about this thing. I've been doing a lot of business studies in the US for the last 10 years, and one of my classes, they taught us about an ESOP structure, and this is a business podcast, and a lot of the people that are listening are other business owners, or they want to become business owners, or they are seniors in companies, right? C-level executives. And I talk about this because very few people know about it. And more important, very few people know that you can actually get it done in Canada, which is where you and I live. So can you explain what an ESOP is and what's the Canadian alternative and why is it so incredible?
So you're talking about an employee stock option plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't deal a lot in employee stock option plans. However, they are mechanisms by which actually employees can participate in the ownership and profits of a company, right? And what it does is it really does give you, some buy-in and some ownership, and a real vehicle for employees to be, very well aligned with the objectives of the business owner. And so there are various plans and the rest that we can put in place to allow employees to participate in the profits and the ownership of a company, which is very interesting actually, David, because I had a meeting with a woman probably about 2 weeks ago, and what was really interesting is that, and I think you'll find this interesting as well, is that they did a survey of, owner-managed businesses, right, that kind of fit in a certain category. And they said, okay, when are you planning to sell your business? Well, 70% of the respondents said they plan to sell their business in 5 years. Well, the market for these businesses in Canada is about 350,000 businesses. Okay, and so 70% of that, let's just say it's 200,000 businesses. So 200,000 businesses said that they're going to sell their business within the next 5 years. Would you know what the deal flow is on business sales in that area? Mm-hmm. It's about 2,000 to 6,000 companies a year.
So it's just an illusion.
What does that tell you? It says most people are not going to be able to sell their business, right? Mm-hmm. So then really when you're looking for return on investment of your company, and you're planning for that sale down the road, right, which will still happen for a lot of businesses, it really allows the business owner to focus on, hey, what do I need to do to maximize my return on investment today, right? Understanding my numbers, understanding, you and I have had a lot of conversations around that, how you understand your numbers and you understand the cycles that you're going through and how those numbers translate and the moves that you have to make. And when you have employee engagement, when employees that are accountable and they're responsible and they add to what your business is doing, right? Rather than just, kind of just taking direction, but actually taking responsibility and, you're giving them incentives like an employee stock ownership plan or the rest of it. It can be amazing. And you can actually maximize that return on investment. And then if you sell your business down the road, then that's a bonus, right? So
have you ever had a situation where they put a plan in place where they actually distribute the shares toward their employees, and then when the owner wants to sell out, instead of selling to an external company, he actually gets a loan from the business, he gets the money from the loan, he sells the business to their employees, and then they pay the loan with the future profits of the company.
I've never seen this situation personally, but it would be an amazing way to transition your business. And you're kind of getting the best of both worlds when you think about it, because not only are your incentives aligned, so your employees' incentives are aligned all the way down the road while you're actually still, taking dividends or earning income from the business, and then it puts in place an actual transition. So yeah, it's an amazing structure if it can be done in practice. I suspect, in order to do it, you would need a person like yourself or a leader who could actually engage and enroll his employees and create that team and that structure to allow the business to move forward on a basis where it will still be, continue to be successful. Because a lot of these owner-manager businesses are really dependent on the owner to continue running the business. And if that owner's not there, that's why people won't pay for it, because the value of the business is in the owner, right?
And that's the barrier that most business owners need to break. And that's why I make this podcast too. You have to you have to work towards a self-managed business, and you have to be able to know that you are replaceable as a business owner. Because imagine the situation, how beautiful will it be to leave the company to the people that help you make it? If you allow people to help you make the company, not do everything yourself, right?
Oh, yeah. And that the business coach that we alluded to, talks about really the 4 freedoms that all owner managers and most people really are looking for. And it's freedom of money, freedom of time, freedom of relationship, and freedom of purpose. And if you're going to create freedom of time in your life, you need to have freedom of money. Right? And money's just a tool. And by engaging your employees and creating a business that can run, and you can actually be an owner inside of that business, right? Then you create freedom of time.
It's beautiful.
Right? And it's beautiful. Yeah.
Now, is there any product? See how I'm enjoying this. Is there any product, for example, I'm a business owner, I want to get some money out of the company, but I don't necessarily want to pay right away that income tax, because in Canada, you take away anything above your salary and you get taxed 50%. Because it goes direct against your personal income. That's why people never take money out of their business in Canada. But is there any product where you invest into an insurance product, an insurance policy, that you can actually get the money out as a loan or anything like that helps you materialize or use the income, but because it's inside an insurance company, an insurance policy, or maybe through a loan, you're not actually spending income, you're actually creating a liability according to the government.
Yeah, there are some structures out there where you can actually put some money into an insurance contract inside of the company and then take a loan personally that's collateralized by that policy. And that's available. There are risks associated with that. So if someone wants to put that structure in place, then they should pay a guarantee fee, right, to the company for guaranteeing that loan. And then also the loan interest associated with the loan is not deductible, right? And so what happens is basically, if you're not paying the interest, or if you don't have income to pay the interest, then it's like a snowball in reverse.
Right.
Insurance is a beautiful snowball that compounds over time without tax, because it's got special provisions that allow the accumulation of the wealth inside the policy to not attract taxation. However, on the other side, the loan can snowball the other way, right? But yes, there are various strategies. Insurance is like, a colleague of mine called it's like the Swiss Army knife of financial tools. There's just so many things that we can do with it. It's such a stable product, and it's got so many tax advantages that actually, in certain situations, companies can use their money, use some leverage, associated with the contract, and use their money towards other endeavors, that provide a higher ROI and actually get the best of both worlds, right? And sometimes that happens inside of like a real estate business, because they're generally very high cash companies, because you need the cash for repairs and maintenance, for vacancies and that kind of thing. Well, where are you going to put your cash? Well, sometimes you put your cash inside the insurance contract, and those loan provisions or the access to financing allows you to actually create some additional ROI inside of those businesses, right? So it's an amazing tool.
Yeah, because people mostly think about insurance as as what it is. It's a covering for the future in case something wrong happens, but they never think about it as a financial tool. Because if your insurance investment inside the interest is growing at a little faster rate than your loan payments, then you're still making money or breaking even, but then you took the capital out and you invested in whatever else you wanted to invest personally, right?
Yeah, like it does get a little bit tricky, and it's possible, and Mr. Trudeau and his friends are are very active these days, David.
I know.
There's lots of things on the pipeline. They just made some changes to the alternative minimum tax regime, which is really an indirect way of increasing capital gains rates for owner managers, which is actually increasing some pressure. Another thing that you might have seen lately is this underutilized housing tax form that's been floating around. They just instituted that. And we just got news that actually they're going to postpone that form for 2023, which merely tells me that the 2022 form was a fishing expedition to see all the real estate that's out there that potentially could be subject to a different type of tax. And so there's lots of headwinds. However, having said that, having good plans and having a good team around you can still create a lot of efficiency and allow you to use your wealth to the best of its ability, right? So
yeah, we live in a tough country for taxes purposes, for sure. Like if you look at our brothers down south in the States, they have a lot more ways to level their taxation. But I'm this type of person that as long as I don't break the law, I'm gonna do whatever I take to keep my money legally, right? And I see insurance as a great way of doing that, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. You make a great point, David. Is that insurance, not insurance, but income tax is law. Okay, it's law. Like it's an interpretation of rules. And so, of course, no one wants to break the law, but it's subject to interpretation, right? And that's why we have tax professionals and financial professionals that advise us, and they tell us how close, we are to the line. And it's up to us to all decide how close to that line we want to go, I guess.
So, what advice would you give? And let's say that you meet a business owner. He's making $1 million a year in their business. They don't have any planning for the future, and they come see you. What's the first thing that you will do with them to get them straight in their finances?
Well, David, thank you for asking that question. That's a wonderful question. What I might have done before is just jump into something, but I don't do that anymore, right? Because I really want to sit down and have a conversation with somebody about what their created future is, right? Because, it's like, there's a lot, like, I've really kind of understood that we're all on our own journey. And your journey is different than my journey, right? And so but it's important to have a journey, or I like to say that you end up floating down the river of life, which is okay. But lots of the joy in life is experienced in the journey. It's in setting goals and moving through that, and to continue to set goals for your life. That's where the joy is experienced. So I really want to understand what their situation is and where they want to go, and what that might look like, and who the family members are that are pulled together. And then we kind of come up with a plan, because I've had situations where I sat down with a doctor. He said, Mike, I want to spend my money. I said, that's awesome. And so that's what he did, right? Some people want to leave a little bit more of a legacy, and so that's what we do. And so I guess the way I'd say it is a mentor of mine, and I love how he put this, is basically says as we climb the mountain of our lives, we have 3 lives, and they call lifestyle, and when life comes at you, and life someday. So if we're not putting away a little bit for life someday, then we're not going to be able to come down the mountain the way that we might want to come down the mountain, right? And what a lot of people don't realize is that the need for income isn't experienced until you don't have income anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people don't plan for life someday, because it's just not there. It's not in our forefront, because while you're earning money, you have all the cash flow that you need for expenses and for things that happen to you, right? And so we kind of go through that. And then once you kind of said, okay, what's enough? Like, what's enough? I think that's important. A guy by the name of Morgan Housel, who wrote the book, The Psychology of Money, says, we should have some marker out there about what enough looks like, right? And maybe it's a shift in priorities towards family and versus building an empire, right? And we're all different. And then when you're coming down the mountain, you're concerned with how you're going to build your income. And you need some liquidity to deal again when life comes at you, and then there's legacy. And so I cover all those points with anybody that I meet. I said, okay, what does your journey look like? What's your enough, or what's your goal? And then how does coming down the mountain look like? And after that, we just maybe rearrange some of their financial furniture to make that happen.
And everybody comes down the mountain. Everybody does eventually, either because your mind changes, your life changes, or health happens, right? And this I think is very smart to look at the future, not depending on that future, because I believe that we have to live in the present and enjoy today, because you don't know if God is going to take your life tonight, or the Bible says that every single day of your life is being written in God's book, but He only knows that book. You don't know that book, right? So it has been said. You just don't know. So for me, even as something as simple that the pandemic taught me, right? We look back to 2020 and the craziness that happened in Western society, where people were running to get basics, and they started fighting for toilet paper. Right? I mean, but everything else went too. Like the shelves got empty within 2-3 days. It was panic because nobody knew what was going to happen. But it's also revealed to me that we are guilty as charged. I wasn't ready either. If you have $2 million in the bank in cash or invested in the stock market, and the electricity goes away, what do? Or there is another pandemic and there is no access to food because the logistics are broken. What do you do? This is something that we never think about, and we thought that we will never see in our lifetimes. But I asked my company, right? I have people in 9 countries, and I talk to them once a month. Last time I told them, if we were to shut down right now, how much food do you have in your house to wait until everything gets back to normal or pseudo normal? And they said they don't even have 2 days of food stored. This is after COVID. Guilty as charged too, right? But now I'm I'm in the process of building a beautiful pantry in my place, and I'm going to start with a 3-month storage plan, and then I'm going to grow it to 1 year. And you know what's going to happen? I'm not going to need it, so I'm going to make a fountain of blessings to the food bank. So as food becomes mature, then I will give it away to the people that need it, because there's a lot of hungry people in my town, and then I will replenish it. So I will make a fountain of giving. But if anything happens, like an insurance policy, then I'll be fine. I don't have to rush to the supermarket to buy toilet paper anymore.
COVID was something, like you said it very, very well. I remember walking in those early days, and I'm like, what if our lives as we know it have drastically changed, right? And there's and there's been some blessings, as you said, that'll come out of this, like your development of your pantry is now going to create a lot of food for other people, right? So there's definitely been some blessings come out of it. But there's been your point about living for today is very important as well, right? You can't you just can't have both feet into stepping into the future, right? You should have a foot planted in today, right?
It's a beautiful balance, right? The way I think about it is, okay, I'm going to set myself up for the future. Once that's done, I'm not going to worry about it anymore, and I'm going to live in the present moment, right? Because I could actually live another 20 years, or I could actually die today. But what if I live 30 years? Am I ready for that?
Well, that's it. Like, there's this stat that something like there's a 50% chance that I think there's a 50% chance that 25% chance that you and your wife will get to 90, and there's like something like a 50% chance that one person like there's a very high, the point is there's a very high likelihood that you will get to 90, David. Right? that there is another 30 years there, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in poverty in my elderly years. And so many people, it happens to them that they didn't plan. They thought that they were going to be income earners their whole life, and all of a sudden, life happens and you cannot work anymore. And how are you going to live in poverty? Or you're going to have a decent lifestyle when you reach your elder years, right? And that's what you sold, Mike.
Well, I do. I do sell protection, yes, for sure, and I feel very, very. It's very important. And the thing though is really having wonderful conversations about what the future can be, what possibilities that people could create when actually someone will sit there and listen to them in that conversation. Because I find that lots of times we don't listen enough.
It's wonderful. Mike, it's been 40 minutes already. I can't believe how time went by so fast. I would like to ask you a question. Last question. I would love to respect your time. If you had access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway on earth, what would you write in it?
I would say, Michael Baker, financial advisor. We help people spend and share their money with purpose.
Beautiful. Spend and share their money with purpose.
Yeah. And create a future that they didn't think was possible.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And those two, honestly, if you will finally learn how to spend and share our money with purpose, you will have a sense of satisfaction that nobody gets, a sense of fulfillment that nobody gets. Because it's in that sharing and in that enjoyment that you actually find happiness, right?
Yeah, everything is inside a relationship, right? In the short time we've known each other, just the blessings of being, feeling the energy and being in relationship with you. That's what life is. It's being in relationship to each other, right? So
it's beautiful. Michael, thank you so much for that. I love the sharing part. When Jesus was around, they asked Jesus, tell us what is the most important commandment out of the 10 commandments. And he said, actually, the entire Bible and all the prophets can be summarized in these two things. Love your God with all your might and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And that's the sharing part that you said. And if you do those two things, that's it. That's the whole, people are wondering what is the purpose of life and why I'm not happy. And just look at those two things and just do them, actually do them every day and see how everything changes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Amen.
Michael, if people would like to get in touch with you and become your client, how can they reach you?
So it's Baker Wealth, my last name, Baker Wealth. On the internet, they can search me up on the internet. We got a website, and it's mike@bakerwealth.ca if they want to send me an email, and just would be happy to engage in conversations on how more people can spend and share their money with purpose.
Beautiful. Michael, thank you so much. God bless you. Have a beautiful rest of the week.
Thank you so much, David. I'm very appreciative for this opportunity.
Blessings.
Okay.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free Podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.